brings you out today to the March for Our Lives rally?
I've been waiting for this for years. I've been it's deeply, deeply upset with gun violence in this country, with gun violence around the world, and with seeing how other countries, Australia, Ireland, when there's a mass shooting, laws are instantly put into place, except here. And there's been a blindness to the need to make a change here. We lived with some gun control for 10 years, and that was repealed or not reinstated. We did fine with it for 10 years with, banning assault weapons, and once that and that was a response to the Kennedy assassination and the string of assassinations, and there's no reason we can't go back to what we had and go forward with even more smart gun safety laws. So it's deeply tragic that it took the massacre at Parkland for this for traction to finally take hold, but it is now, and so I'm here to celebrate that.
March for Our Lives was a student-led demonstration in support of tighter gun controls that took place in Washington, D.C., and in over 800 other locations throughout the United States and around the world. The event followed the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in Parkland, Florida, which was described as many as a possible tipping point for gun control legislation. Hello, I'm Brent Carlson. Welcome to Brethren Voices. The Church of the Brethren has been deeply concerned about the increased frequency and severity of school-related violence. It comes at a time when we see extensive violence and violent images in our culture and on our TVs. We've become accustomed to this culture of violence where easy access to lethal weapons is common. Internationally and domestically, our nation readily resorts to violence to get its way. Nearly 20 years ago, the 1999 annual conference of the Church of the Brethren, in light of the disturbing realities of that time, recommitted itself to its heritage of nonviolence as modeled by the life and teachings of Jesus and our mission of continuing his vital example of peaceful living. Previously to that, in 1978, the denomination called for the elimination of all weapons used for human destruction, calling for more effective gun control legislation, especially legislation that would protect our children from gun-related violence, and encourage our members to actively support such legislation. With this in mind, we joined the March for Our Lives to meet with folks at one of the sites to talk to them about their concerns. To help us do that, John Jones of Myrtle Point, Oregon, walked with the marchers to get their thoughts about the events leading up to the march. John, it's great having you with us on Brethren Voices.
Thank you, Brent. It's nice to be with you.
Nice to be with you. It appeared from the news reports that there were all ages in attendance and over 12,000 people showed up.
Yes, yeah, I was myself very inspired, and I think other people who came there were very inspired. And I think it's important to realize that people who came out that day, generally myself included, we were answering the call of students and others, parents and other people who were affected by the shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. And their call for people to come out and demand a more common sense approach to gun violence in our culture today. And we talked to little kids, we talked to grandmas and grandpas, and we talked to lots of young people who really, that's why I was there, was to stand with the young. Because for so long it has seemed to me that people who are concerned about, say, Second Amendment rights and people who are concerned about the safety of their children in school haven't been able to find some some common ground with one another, because it's been sort of framed in this idea that if any rights whatsoever are given up, if there's any budging, all of these supposed rights will be taken away. And that doesn't seem to make sense. And I think for many Americans it doesn't. And the fact that these young people called us to action was something I just had to answer the call. I had an interview that I watched the other day with Andrew Young, former ambassador to the United Nations and activist for civil rights, and also Atlanta mayor. He said when he was with Dr. King, when Dr. King was shot, and that bullet clipped Dr. King's chin and went straight through his spinal cord and instantly ended his life, although the heart beat for another hour. He said he was in a sense baptized by blood on that day, that he could not ever not act. He had to keep acting. People sometimes ask him, when are you going to retire? He says, I'll never be able to retire. And he said these young people who that day, Valentine's Day in 2018, they were in the same sense baptized in blood, and they cannot not act. They are called by their hearts to act. And I felt I had to be there to be part of the answer of that call.
Tell me about the posters. It looked like great signs and posters in the march.
Yeah, so many of the posters were this concept of enough is enough, it's time to act. There were posters that said prayers and concern are not enough, that being in your thoughts and prayers is good, but we need to take action. And then there were signs calling for caring for the children. Do we care more about our guns than we do our children? What I found overall was that the people who were there for the demonstration were not totally anti-gun. They certainly were anti-gun owners. Some of them probably were gun owners themselves, but they just felt that there has to be some coming together on this issue. There has to be.
I'm Elsa, and I come from Hillsborough. I go to Valley Catholic School.
Thank you. And what brings you out today to the March for Our Lives rally?
So I came here today because I think it's a very important cause, and it affects a lot of children all across the nation. And it's important that we do our part to try to tell the government and other people what we want to happen, what change that we want to bring.
What are your personal hopes? What kind of things might you like to see change for the better in terms of our gun violence culture?
I would definitely want to see more gun reform, some sort of restrictions, so that way people can't as easily access guns. People with maybe some sort of mental illness or something like that would where they could hurt someone. And I definitely want to see people not being afraid to go to school, not having to fear getting shot anywhere.
So accessibility, easy accessibility, making it too easy for people is not a good thing. You'd like to see some improvements there. And
Yes.
also just in terms of safety and security in general for students and others.
Yeah, students and everyone across the nation.
I came because I'm upset with what's happening in government and how they can let this sort of thing happen. And I'm frightened that it's going to happen to me or somebody that I love. And I have to think about how it's been for people who have lost the people that they love.
What kinds of hopes do you guys have in terms of the kinds of changes you'd like to see that would be practical, actionable kinds of solutions?
Well, for a start, they could reinstate the assault weapons ban, so a ban on these high-capacity magazines and semi-automatic guns, handguns and rifles, anything that can have a large number of cartridges to fire. I would also be in favor of some sort of safe storage law. So if you have a gun, that's fine, but it has to be locked up, so kids can't get hold of parents' guns and either accidentally or deliberately shoot people. I don't know, I'm from England. We had a school shooting one time in 1996, and immediately government banned all handguns and we haven't had a school shooting since. So I just find this whole non-action unacceptable. It's ridiculous that it's still happening here.
And I agree. I think that you see around you that people are angry. We're ready to do something about this. It's not something that we can, and I see these young people and it just makes my heart so happy that they're trying to do something that we've been unable to do for whatever reason.
I saw a father last night on television, another father, saying, we were just too nice.
Yeah.
And these kids have a power and a truth that they're speaking.
Right, and I think that something too, and I heard someone, I think it was Suzanne Bonamici, say so eloquently, is that when we really sit and talk, we aren't that opposed to what the other side needs. We just have to find a common ground. And I think we can do that, and we can, eliminate all these senseless shootings that are happening and not take away people's rights to hunt. I mean, that's not what we want to do.
My name is Emily. I'm here because I go to school right now, and I'm going to be an elementary school teacher in the future. And I mean, sometimes I'm scared at school when the door opens, and I'm afraid that there's going to be a gunman at the door. And I want to protect my life, my friends' lives, and everyone who goes to school. I don't think we should be afraid to go to school and fear for our lives.
You go to school here in Portland, Oregon?
Yeah, I go to Portland Community College.
All right. Thank you for coming out today.
Yeah.
May I ask you, what are some of your hopes? I'm sure you're like so many that would like to see common sense gun control action taken.
Yeah.
What kind of things are you hopeful about?
Well, I think this march isn't necessarily to ban all guns, and take away the Second Amendment right. It's mostly to ban bump stocks and ban assault rifles or semi-automatic weapons. Yeah, because there's no point in having that. It's just to kill mass amounts of people, and there's just no point for that. So I think that's, and I mean even more gun control, like having better background checks and just making sure that guns don't get in the wrong hands.
Your sign says not right or left, it's life or death. And that's a hopeful kind of sign. What kind of hope do you see that such an outcome can happen?
Just gun control in general. I just feel like Emily just said, we don't need AR-15s. I mean, I think they're military-grade weapons anyway, so I just don't think an average citizen needs one at home sitting around. And I don't think that a 18-year-old should legally be able to access one easier than, I don't know, it's just really easy to get, and I feel like we don't need that. It causes more bad than good, more harm than good. And I feel like, I don't know, I really like this sign because it's just I don't think we should bring politics into it, like you said. That just creates more tension and more things we don't need right now. We just need to work together. Yeah, work together, and politics kind of steers us apart from that. So
those kind of conversations can happen, and the fact you young ladies are out here today is really impressive for an old geezer like me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
being here. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. I assume you're dad and son?
Yeah.
Great, thanks for coming out today. May I ask your names and ask where you're from?
I am Dylan, and I'm from Kalama, which is Kalama, Washington. And
my name is Avi, the same place.
Great. Yes. Great. What brings you guys out today? I assume you made the sign yourself.
yes,
And why are you here today to this March for Life rally?
we're here. Well, at least I'm here. I'm not sure why my dad's here. I'm here because I was motivated because of those students that died. I was watching the news and I saw that on the news, and so that really is what motivated me to come here.
Against gun?
You're standing with the kids who lost their lives and other kids that are standing up for sensible gun control.
Yes.
You're standing with them. Thank you. And may I ask your dad that question? Why did you come out today?
I came here to support my son, to support his future, make sure we won't have guns in school. We don't need them. And it's ridiculous that we have been waiting for so long to do something about it.
What kinds of common sense changes do you think are possible, and certainly ones that you yourself might like to see?
Well, I'm from Australia, and in Australia we had a big incident a few years back where a shooter took lives of 29 people, and a month later we decided to confiscate all the guns and eradicate the problem. So I think it's as simple as that. We don't need guns. I mean, I understand if you live in the wilderness, it's fine, but at schools, we don't need that. We don't need it in this life we're living in cities where we don't need guns, really. That's what I think.
Thank you. And may I ask you, what will you say to your friends at school, people your own age, about what you think they can do to change things for the better?
I would say we'll make a couple signs, join a couple marches, and just kind of get involved that way.
It's not about taking the Second Amendment away. It's about looking at some of the loopholes that we can adjust. I work in the mental health field, and I have long been an advocate for having people go through some kind of a process in which we can rule out whether or not they're fit or not fit to own a gun. So that's something I've believed in for a long time. Every time there's been a school shooting, my daughter becomes very stressed. Of course, when they had the shootings around the theaters and things like that, this is a stressful time for them. And as a voter, I feel powerless regarding what I can do to help advocate for my daughter when there's a lot of politicians that are, taking money from the NRA and they don't promote or represent their constituents. Not necessarily here in Oregon, they're supportive of us, but other politicians and my God, the Second Amendment, they had muskets back in those days, for heaven's sakes. And, again, I'm not advocating that they do away with the Second Amendment. I'm just saying that it's time to take a look at this. Do we really need AR-15s? Does anybody need an automatic weapon? The people that own guns, they often use them for hunting or, quote, protection. However, I'm not sure how an AR-15 that blows people's guts to pieces is necessary. So, when the shooting happened at Parkland, I said to my daughter Emily, I have a feeling that the kids they're going to be the generation, these millennials are going to be the generation that says we've had enough, it's time for change. And she became active in that, and I'm here to support her, and that's exactly what's happening.
Now you guys have grown up in a world where a lot of people have guns and some bad things happen. What are you hoping for in your lifetime in the way of things to change? What would you like to see?
I would like to see gun laws passed. I'd like to see background checks happen. I'd like to see our president not being dumb, and we should have rights. We're going to school to learn. We're not going to school to be shot up and killed.
Do you think it's too easy sometimes for people to get guns?
Yeah, they need to do background checks, because someone that might be mentally ill could go in and buy a gun, and then what happened in a lot of the gun cases with schools, that's happened because someone who's mentally ill has gone into a gun store and they've bought guns, and then our president is also funding the NRA, so I think that's bad too.
What would you like to see in the world that you think would be a better world?
I would like to see less people robbing banks and less people shooting.
What would you hope for in terms of gun violence and all, that things could be better?
I hope people stop killing other people.
And what kinds of change do you personally hope you might see in the near future?
In the near future, I'd like to ban assault rifles, ban bump stocks. I know here in Oregon, we just recently made legislation to make it harder for people who have been convicted of domestic abuse to get a hold of guns, which is very good. That's very fun because those people are obviously violent people, and if they get a hold of guns, it's even worse. But eventually I personally would like to ban all guns. I know that's kind of a controversial statement, but I just don't see the point in guns as a whole. So, but in the short term, I would like to ban assault rifles and ban bump stocks and the equipment to make other rifles semi-automatic.
Good morning, Andy.
Good morning.
I understand you are with Physicians for Social Responsibility.
I am.
Portland chapter?
That's correct. It's the Oregon chapter.
The Oregon chapter of Physicians for Social Responsibility. Could you tell us why you joined the rally today for the March for Life?
Well, I think it's deplorable how many assault weapons we have in this country. They're designed for the military use, and they're in civilian society, and they're killing our children. And there is no reason to have these sort of weapons in civilian society at all.
And today, what are some of the hopeful feelings you have seeing a crowd of people here who are coming out with great concern? What are some of the hopes that you have?
Well, you know, I'm one of these old activists that go back to the Vietnam War, and I'm seeing a lot of kids. I'm seeing a lot of young people out here. There's a wonderful turnout of youth of all ages, and that's a very hopeful sign. This is not just the old activists. This is a movement. This is a trend that is really trending right now. And I think it speaks positively for getting rid of assault weapons. These weapons not only fire multiple bullets over a short period of time, but they do just tear through tissue. So bones and vessels and organs are destroyed by one or two of these bullets. And that's very different than a hunting rifle, which has a small entrance and a relatively small exit wound. These have huge exit wounds, and people don't survive. There is no reason for them at all other than to kill masses of people in warfare. And they ought to be eliminated. They ought to be banned. I think the government ought to be buying them back from people. And basically, over the course of time, we would eventually get rid of these assault weapons like the AR-15.
Rally.
I want a safe environment for my kids to go to school in. They go to the Reynolds School District. TJ goes to Reynolds High School. They had a school shooting there less than 5 years ago. And, you know, it's something that we don't want to repeat. And, you know, being out here, being active and letting our voices be heard, you know, and protesting is, you know, it's one way to get things done. You know, it's just a small part of the solution. So that's why we're here today.
And Mom?
I want to support her 100% and support our kids and, you know, not fearing to go to school and, you know, go there to learn and become better people, parts of society that are, you know, important. And to do that, they have to have a healthy environment. And right now they're scared. So, you know, we need to be supportive of them and the efforts to make a change. And that's why we're
What kind of practical, actionable changes would you really like to see?
I'd really like to see a little more safety in our schools, you know, like a little more security at the schools, as well as, you know, stopping the semi-automatic weapons. There's no need for these machines, you know. You know, I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment, but at the same time, there's no reason for those semi-automatic weapons to be out in the general public. We don't need those. You can have your arms, just not the semi-automatics. That's all I want.
As a young person, by the time you get to my age, you're going to see a lot more things, a lot more social justice movement. What would you really like to see?
I would like to see, like, my generation take more action and to really get out there and try to get our voices heard. So, like, in the future, I want to see history. This is history going down. I want to see it in history books. I want to teach my kids about, hey, I was out here on the March for Life thing. I made a change. I wanted to make your school safer for not only me, but generations to come as well.
Initiative 43.
Yes.
Can you just in a nutshell tell us what it will do?
Yes. It's to ban the sale and manufacture of assault-style weapons and magazines, large capacity magazines over 10 rounds in Oregon. To ban the sale and manufacture in Oregon. If you currently own one, and you want to keep it, you can. You have to register it, and you can use it at a shooting range, a facility that is for that purpose. You can still do your target shooting there with your weapon after this initiative.
You had some personal family experience with gun violence or gun-related violence.
When I was in college, I came home unexpectedly and rattled the back door open. I wanted to see my parents. It wasn't the day of cell phones. I wasn't able to just call and say I'm coming home. Came in.
You came home unannounced.
Came home unannounced through the back door late at night, and maybe early hours of the morning. I can't remember for sure. I felt a dreadful uneasiness. I decided to call out, "Hey guys, I'm home." I heard my father's very, very troubled voice at the top of the stairs. "Johnny, is that you?" And I realized right then he had his pistol. He was ready to open fire on the intruder that he felt had just broken in. Those kind of things happen in families, especially when your dad was a fellow who came home from World War II, what we call PTSD today. He was a decorated veteran. He was a very honorable man. He was a guy I loved a great deal. But he was troubled. And we see similar things in our culture today all the time in families, and we have to ask these hard questions. What can we do to be a more sane society?
John Jones, thank you for being with us on Brethren Voices and for being our man on the march.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. For Brethren Voices, this is Brent Carlson.
And John Jones.
Wishing you peace.
Wishing you peace.
All those who tread the path he trod, all those who tread the path he trod, all those who tread the path he trod shall be called the friends of God. May his peace begin with me. Oh, the Jesus way is the way of peace. Oh, the Jesus way is the way of peace. Oh, the Jesus way is the way of peace. When he is king, all wars will cease. May his peace